everyone, welcome to another episode of the Cubica AMF Tech Tip Podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we take you on a journey through the fascinating world of bowling technology and beyond. As always, I'm your host, Orly, and we have returning guest Charles Craig. Charles just was on the show a couple weeks ago, so make sure you're going back and listen to that show and other past shows. There's a lot of great information out there. Charles, welcome to the show.
Hey, Orly, thanks for having me back. It's always great to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. You know, I know you're a busy guy out there doing training and saving the world one center at a time.
Trying my best.
And Charles, today what I wanted to cover, you know, if you're listening to the show and you're a returning listener, you know that we kind of cover a different subject each week. Today I have kind of two kind of simpler, let's say they're a little simple and kind of short. So we're going to kind of do two little subjects in one show. So Charles, the two things I wanted to see if you could cover today were, one would be transferring of a tip. So basically, you know, somebody's not signed off and they use somebody else's sign on and they got a tip and they're like, hey, that was actually my tip, you know, and I don't know if you've never worked in a bowling center, tips could cause some drama if you're getting the wrong tip. So,
oh yeah.
So that was one thing I wanted to cover. And the other was going to be clearing your pin deck for when you're going to like oil your lanes. You know, we've covered oiling the lanes on past shows, but I don't know if we quite covered how to, you know, make sure your pins go up. I know it could kind of be a confusing process, especially if someone's new to a center, you know, and making sure, is it supposed to be off or the pin's just supposed to be up? You know, what needs to happen? So those are the two things I would like to cover today. I'll let you take it over. I don't know if you want to cover the tips first or clearing the pin deck. I'll let you choose and just let you have the floor.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's start with tips, because that one is definitely a point of contention for your staff at closeout. Everybody wants to make sure that they get what they made, so it's important to know how to manage those tips in Conqueror. Anything done with tips in Conqueror is going to be done through that POS tab at the top of Conqueror, and then on that first tab that it takes you to, where it says General, down the bottom right, there's going to be a kind of orange-colored tab that says Tip Management.
Okay.
And we'll click on that. So if you have tips in the system, it'll go ahead and it'll show you everything. If there aren't any tips, they'll say there's no tips for you to manage. Typically, end of the night, though, if you're already taking tips, you know, part of your normal business, then you'll go ahead and you'll have a list of tips. It's always going to tell you the tip owner, meaning who actually took the tip, the person's name, and then the tip amount. We select one by clicking it. It'll highlight that whole line in blue. And then down at the bottom, you see we have a transfer button and a payout button. So if you have tips for Conqueror, you're probably used to the payout feature. Mm-hmm. That's how you pull the money out of Conqueror and, you know, still maintain your drawer being where it's supposed to be. But if we hit the transfer button, we get a new window that pops up. And it's going to say current owner, tip amount, and then total to transfer. So let's say we had another user named Jonathan. In the middle of that box, we click on Jonathan's name and use the arrow pointing to the right to bump him over to new owner. Let's say out of my $3.66 that I made today, $2.50 of it were Jonathan's. I'm going to type that amount in, and then all I have to do is hit OK. And that went ahead and moved that money over. And then you'll see my remaining and then Jonathan's new tip amount.
Okay. Yeah, like
Simple
I
as
said,
that.
Yeah, that comes in handy just because it happens, you know, you're supposed to sign off when you leave your computer and somebody else sign in with their fingerprint or however they do it by password. But, you know, every once in a while you get busy and you take off, somebody jumps on your, especially if it's a busy weekend. And then all of a sudden you notice one person has, you know, $75 in tips and the other person has 30 cents. And they're like, whoa, something's wrong. I know I got a tip here somewhere. So it's going to happen. And like I said, that's a good one to know because, you know, you don't want everybody freaking out over their tips and causing some incentive drama.
Another great thing for management for proprietors these days too is do not forget you have a tip management part of QPortal.
Okay.
You have a whole tab up there where you can go in and you can just see what happened today, what was added, what was voided, what was transferred, and also what was paid out. That way, even if you're not there or, you know, an employee wants you to verify something that maybe was moved earlier, You can log into it from your phone right there and go ahead and see that report.
And then we'll jump on to clearing the pin deck to be able to oil those lanes.
Clearing the pin deck is great. So, depending upon how you did it in the past, some people would just let the machine go down the lane and knock down the pins. Some people would, they would go ahead and do their gutters with a big push broom, push the pins into the pit, and then, make sure the machines were powered off. Um, with our edge string machines, the best thing that we can do is use this feature from our front desk called Clear Pin Deck.
Okay.
That is going to raise the pins, raise the shield, and then we also are making sure the machine is turned off so it will not try to set any pins on that machine as it goes down and comes back. We do that by selecting our lanes in Conqueror. So you can do your click and drag to select, the lane range that you want. We would click on our pin spotter functions. We would go to pin spotter on. That's going to then turn the machines on. I always like to say, let's wait, 10 seconds just for the machines to power up, to cycle, do all of their kind of startup procedure. With the edge string, it's also the time that you would hear the beep, beep, beeps coming from the back.
Yep.
Once all of that is ready to go and settled, you would click on the clear pin deck option. So as soon as you do that, it's going to pop up a new box and it's going to tell you, you need to turn the machines off before you clean. That is very important because if you forget that step, you're probably going to get some pins dropped on your lane machine. And we don't want to do that, especially since these pins are now attached to your machines. So after we give it, maybe 5-10 seconds for it to lift those pins in the shield, once it settles, we go back in and we hit pin spotter off.
Okay.
Now you're safe to go ahead and do all your oiling. And really, the next time that you open a lane, it's probably going to go ahead and put down a fresh set for you, and you're good to go.
All right. And I don't know, I never really bring this up, but some of these shows that we do cover, these are issues that I had. This is somebody speaking from experience. So the strings coming down on the oiling machine, I'm going to go ahead and say that's happened to me before in the past. So so that's
Stuff
why,
happens, man.
It's one of those things when your teacher says, does anyone have any questions? Because if you do, somebody else might have that same question. When I come with some of these topics, I'm like, you might think this is easy, but I know it's happened to me. So it could be somebody else needs this advice too. So
Always happy to lend some of that advice out when I can. I've been doing this for maybe not as long as some people, but I've been doing it for quite a bit now.
Yeah. Well, Charles, I appreciate you coming on. And, I didn't get to ask you this episode, but just real quick, if you could let everyone know your job title with Cubica AMF and what you do.
Sure. I am a Cubica AMF Max trainer. I am the person that will make contact and come out and see you or do a virtual training after you have done made a purchase or maybe upgraded something. We're kind of the ones that impart some of the knowledge to you.
Yeah, I like to consider you guys superheroes of the company. And everybody in the company is we'll say everybody's a superhero because I know I'm probably going to have some complaints saying, hey, what about our department? We're superheroes too. So everybody within the company is a superhero. We'll just put it that way.
Oh, I mean, I think that all of us have our part in, making bowling amazing, keeping things going. So everybody definitely, no one's too big, no one's too small. We're all doing a part and we're all keeping this rolling.
I agree. Without everybody's piece, basically a bunch of puzzle pieces going together to make one great company. So, Charles, I appreciate you coming on again. And everyone, as I mentioned earlier, make sure to go back, listen to those past shows. So much great information out there. And until next time, we will talk to everyone soon.